Oh, what a tangled web we weave. I have read the approximately 90-page report that Ron Johnson produced regarding the investigation into the Bidens and Burisma and the Ukraine and China and Russia and all these things. And the media, the liberal media, will tell you that there's nothing there, that it's hearsay, conjecture, speculation, uh, connecting dots where there's no connectivity. There's some of that, uh, but there's a lot of meat on the bone. And I'm going to read you some things here, and bear with me. I'm going to try to get into it quickly. Early in 2015, acting deputy chief of mission at the U.S. Embassy in Kiev, Ukraine, George Kent, raised concerns to officials of Biden's staff about the perception of a conflict of interest with respect to Hunter Biden's role on the Burisma board. Kent's concerns were unaddressed. Biden, in a couple of interviews that I've seen, says his staff never delivered this information to him. And then he sort of buffers it by saying that probably his staff was sparing him at a time when his son was dying. Nonetheless, Kent did say that he followed up with emails to the staff. So there's a record of this concern. John Kerry, stating that he knew nothing about Hunter Biden's involvement with Burisma, is another point of contention. Former Secretary of State, he did have knowledge of Hunter's role on Burisma board. When he was asked about it in a town hall event in New Hampshire, December of 2019, he said he had no knowledge about it, absolutely none. But the record indicates, including Kerry's chief of staff, David Wade, said he briefed Kerry about inquiries, the press's inquiries as to Heinz, which is Kerry's stepson, Hunter Biden, and Burisma, and that state officials further concur with what Wade said, stating that they also sent Kerry articles, news articles about Hunter joining the Burisma board. So as early as 2014, he was fully aware, and his stepson was involved in this. In addition to Kent, there's also another Democrat, U.S. Special Envoy in 2016, Hochstein. He also voiced concern over Hunter being on the Burisma board, and he actually went into this detail, which he says he advised both the Biden staff, and then he says he advised Hunter in a separate conversation himself, basically that the Russians were using Biden's presence on the board to advance disinformation, and that this disinformation was to sow disarray and problems with the Ukraine. I think that that's pretty much something that you don't need to connect a lot of dots with. They basically, Biden, and as far up the ladder as it went beyond him, I can't imagine that Obama was not aware of it, but let's say he wasn't. From Biden down, they looked the other way, even though their people were telling them, hey, we're supposed to be fighting corruption. This looks pretty bad on its surface. While Hunter was on the Burisma board, the owner of Burisma, the now corrupt Zlochevsky, paid a $7 million bribe to the Prosecutor General's office of the Ukraine. So Zlochevsky paid $7 million while Hunter was on the board. Hunter stated his position on the board was to consult on matters of transparency, corporate governance, and corporate responsibility. Pretty interesting. $7 million bribe. Your job is to corporate governance and compatibility with corporate structure and $7 million bribe. Johnson's committee has requested information as to what, if any, action the FBI has taken in regards to this disclosure, because the FBI was made aware of it. And as of the issuing of the Johnson report, the FBI has not responded. Now, another interesting point, taxpayer dollars. Hunter Biden traveled on Air Force Two, received armed protection from the U.S. Secret Service, was enrolled as a protectee, which entitles him to this, from January 2009, and remained a protectee for 4.5 years, with 70 trips overseas as a protectee, including 6 trips to Beijing. Hunter Biden scheduled in total hundreds of trips as a protectee while he was a Burisma board member. Hunter Biden was paid $50,000 a month to be a Burisma board member, while the U.S. taxpayer footed the bill for his security and his travel and who knows what else. The Treasury records show potentially criminal activity relating to transactions among and between Hunter Biden, his family, and his associates with Ukrainian, Russian, and Chinese nationals. That's a pretty clear assertion. It needs to be proven, but it needs to be further investigated. In particular, these Treasury records show that Hunter Biden received millions of dollars from foreign nationals as a result of business relationships built while his father was the vice president. In April of 2014, Burisma sent 2 wires totaling $112,000 to Rosemont Seneca, a shell entity owned by Hunter and his business partner, Devon Archer, his longtime business partner. Between May 15th and 2014, May 15th of 2014 and February of 2016, Burisma sent 48 wires to Rosemont, again, the Biden entity, totaling $3.5 million. 39 of the 48 transactions are classified as consulting services. Okay? Between June of 2014 and October of 2015, Rosemont sent 38 wires totaling $700K directly to Hunter Biden. In May of 2016, Biden's business partner, longtime Archer, and 5 others were arrested and criminally charged in a scheme to defraud investors and a tribal entity out of millions of dollars. Starting January of 2016, Burisma began sending regular payments for Biden to his Washington law firm, Owasco PC. Owasco incorporated in January of 2006 and lists its executive officer as Robert Hunter Biden. Correlates with the arrest of his partner, the payments to the law firm from Burisma. Payments from Burisma to Owasco continued through 2016, and they ceased 8 days after Trump won the election. Burisma sent 9 wires totaling $750,000 to the law firm. Biden continued on the Burisma board through April of 2019. In addition, Zlochevsky, owner of Burisma, made 2 large cash transfers to Burisma, while Archer and Biden served on their board. Those were made April 30th of 2014 for $12 million, and then April 20th of 15 for $200K. So over $12 million from Burisma. Now, it wasn't just limited to the Ukraine. Russia. Hunter and Archer had a financial relationship with Russian businesswoman Elena Baturina. Baturina, former wife of the late Yuri Luzkov, who was the mayor of Moscow. The mayor that was fired in 2010 by then Russian President Medvedev. Remember Medvedev? He's the one that is seen in the video that Obama leans over to him when Medvedev was asking Obama for some concessions. And he said, wait till after the election. This was between Obama's first and second term. Wait till after the election. I'll be able to help you out more. That Medvedev. He fired Baturina's husband, Luzkov, over corruption allegations. Baturina became Russia's first, only female billionaire when her plastics company, Inteco, received a series of Moscow municipal contracts while her husband was mayor. That doesn't sound fishy. According to Russian reporting, Luzkov, her deceased husband, his position as mayor of Moscow to approve over 20 major real estate projects that were built by a Baturina-owned construction company. In addition, Russian investigation led to a criminal case against the former head of the Bank of Moscow, who allegedly used money from the Moscow city budget, where Baturina's husband was the mayor, to lend money to shell companies, which then transferred over $440 million to Baturina. I guess this is why the Bidens don't feel that there's any conflict, because the people that they hang around with, this was like common practice for them. So I guess they told them, hey, this is the way to do it. And Hunter, who was definitely the black sheep of the family, and Joe, who's never made a penny other than off the political teat, the taxpayer dollar, figured, hey, this is how the rich guys do it. Let's do this. In February of 14, Baturina wired $3.5 million, okay, $3.5 million to Rosemont Seneca Thornton LLC, an investment firm co-founded by Hunter Biden. $3.5 million from the Russians as well. It doesn't end just in Russia, China. And I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but you can read the report. I'm trying to save you some time. It's 90 pages. It's pretty tedious reading. China, Hunter and Devon Archer engaged in numerous financial transactions with Chinese nationals with deep connections to the communist Chinese government. The conclusion of all of this, synopsis, Biden and Archer formed significant and consistent financial relationships with corrupt oligarch Zlochevsky in the Ukraine during their time working for Burisma. Hunter Biden received $3.5 million from Russian businesswoman Elena Baturina, while allegedly received illegal construction contracts from her husband, the Moscow mayor, which we discussed. And finally, Biden and Archer worked with Chinese nationals connected to the communist regime, illustrating the deep financial connections that accelerated while the father was VP. And in no coincidence, the building up of trade with China, the Chinese economy, trade deals that buried America and helped China with their preferred status, their preferred trade status. You can say, liberals, that this is conjecture. There's pretty much meat on this bone. Does need further investigation. But I will say this. Let's do what Rand Paul said. Well, not let's do. He did it today. He sent a copy of this report to the Department of Justice and has asked for the tools of the Justice Department to be implemented to investigate what appears on the surface to be a likelihood of the very least, conflict of interest, and more likely, in my opinion, some nefarious business transactions that had to be kept quiet and covered up from the American people, because in the best case they were pure business, but it looked like crap, and in the most likely case there was some criminal activity involved here, because everyone they dealt with on the other side, in the Ukraine, in China, and Russia, are convicted criminals. Understand that. Who you are, who you hang around with, indicates quite a bit as to what you're willing to do, what you're willing to accept, and who you truly are. Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, take away these big hits on these transactions and tell me where they've made the money to live the lifestyles that they do. Think about it, people. Open your eyes. Thinking is truly contagious.